Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. My name is Pavel with my fabulous co-host.
Well, fabulous. Sometimes I get called beautiful. Today it's fabulous. My name is Evan. I go by Rev Reynolds. You can reach me at Rev and Av. You can reach my colleague at Hockey_2 on the famous X. As in, some people just want to X them right out. But hey, we got a jacked and loaded show like almost every week. But tonight I'm really excited. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to cover. But before we do, we will go into talk about our guest headliner. But before we do that, Bud, why don't you tell everybody each week where and how they can follow us?
We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are found on Facebook, on YouTube, on our Twitter/X handle, on Threads, and you can go to our website at twoguysinhockeytalk.com.
Interesting. By the way, you can also check out our website, twoguysinhockeytalk.com, where he mentioned. Check out all our articles. We'll have them. I have a bunch of stuff going up this week on the past history of the WHL, the whole CHL, the ownership. We talked about the BCHL as a rogue league. Well, the entire CHL was once a rogue league as well. There'll be some interesting stuff we'll have, as well as you can follow a lot of our former guests. What's that?
We're going to get to that all, but let's get to our guest headliner.
Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show.
Hey guys, this week's guest headliner is Chris Dingman. He is a former NHL player. He's an alumni now. He played with the Flames, drafted by them, played in Colorado and Tampa, won 2 Stanley Cups. He was also in Carolina. Guys, he was drafted 19th overall. I can imagine the excitement of that year for you, Chris, as well as he was a WHL champion, was an incredible player, well-known in the community in Brandon, Manitoba. Guys, welcome tonight. Hey, welcome, Chris.
Well, thanks for having me. Actually, a funny story for you, just talking about the draft. So when you're, back in my era, I don't want to reveal your guys' age, but I'm 48, so 76th birthday. But we just played hockey, and I had a Sony Discman, and we had our bunks. Well, I had not my first year. My first year I actually sat next to Darren Dreger, who was our radio guy. And poor Dregs was against the window like this, and I was in the aisle because I was like 6'4", 220, and he wasn't too happy about life. But anyway, so my draft year, I'm playing, and I had a couple of really bad quad contusions, like Charlie horses, and where you can't like bend your legs. So came back, and I believe it was the second one, and I was playing right wing, and I hadn't really played right wing before, especially at that level. And I was having a hard time. And so anyways, leading up to the draft, they're like, late first, early second, all the projections and stuff. And I love this. I said this to a guy at lunch today where Central Scouting was like, he's big, he's physical, good hockey, hockey sense, can shoot, fights, pass the puck. But when he turns, he takes out the first 5 rows. And I thought that was a little hurtful. And Kramer's like, yeah, you couldn't turn worth a, what? Well, I try not to swear unless you guys allow swearing, but I try to keep it PG. But anyway, so, I'm playing and I'm struggling, and I'm just, a little rattled. And whatever, get through it. And so I did one meeting with Calgary, and I did this psychological testing and all this different stuff, and then they never talked to me again. So I didn't know, and I guess they're trying to be covert, and so they ended up drafting me 19, and I'm sitting there in my tip-top suit with my floral tie and whatever that my dad tied for me because I couldn't. But anyway, so you get drafted, and you go up on the stage, you do your hug and put the hat on, but I'm trying not to mess my hair because I had the 90210, like kind of like right now I need a haircut pretty badly. But anyway, so I'm just happy I still have hair. So anyways, do the picture, and you go down and meet everyone. And so Doug Risebrow was a GM, great guy, and Tom Thompson was a head scout. And so we were just talking, whatever, and they introduced me to all the scouts and the coaching staff and everything. And what did he say? He goes, yeah, he's like, you have no idea how happy we were when you came back and you were playing right wing. And I was like, why? What do you mean? I was like, I was struggling mightily. He's like, you were terrible, but we knew we wanted you at 19, so it was perfect. I was like, wow, thanks for telling me that now. But at the time, I was like, all rattled and whatever. My confidence was shaken, not stirred. But yeah, anyway, so I just had a laugh about that. I was like, wow, it would have been nice to know at the time, but they were being covert. So
yeah, that seems some like interesting reverse psychology that they used on you. Like you bring all the assets you want as the physicality of a player, the IQ. But they're like, you know what, maybe, you need a little bit something else if we're going to bring you up to right wing. But we do appreciate you coming on, and we will get into the NHL because there's a lot to cover. However, a lot of people don't know that you were a WHL guy, right? Co-captain and WHL champion. So do you want to talk a little bit about that experience in the W and what memories you're most fond of?
No, I don't want to talk about it. No, I had batteries thrown at me, pop. We got a brawl in Regina in the playoffs.
What?
It was at the end of the game. Yeah, Marty Murray and Darren Ritchie, my line mates, my third year. I believe it was my second year, but I don't know. The years kind of blur together. And they were on the ice, and so me and Colin Kuche go to jump over the boards. We jump over, and our coach Bobby Lowe's grabs us by the scruff of the, back of the neck, the jersey. He's like, "You're not going anywhere." So our backup goalie, Craig Hordell, he had the old Cooper helmet cage like Chris Osgood. So they strap his cage on. And so we're all ready to go. And they had this, I think his name was Petruk or something. They had a Czech guy. So he hops on the ice. And he didn't know the rules. So as soon as he hopped on the ice, our coach was like, "See you later." So, we go flying in there. I grab Marty Murray's guy first. I'm like, "You're going to get it." So I grab a hold of him, and Marty goes, "No, I got this." So I basically hold the guy's arms, and Marty's like, "Yeah, you're not so tough now." And he's just giving it to him. And then I go and grab Richie's guy, and I'm like, "I got him." And Richie's like, "No, I got this." So same thing, held the guy's arms, poor guy. So literally it was bad. So we're everything, would fight, it would break out, and then it'd calm down, then break out, and then it'd calm down. And then we ended up going into the stands because a guy, I believe he spit on me, and then I punched him, knocked him out. But, you hear all the stories and all this stuff and everything that happened. And, I was going through Brandon to a tournament in Winnipeg, my younger boy Sawyer, about 5 years ago, give or take, 5 or 6 years ago. Anyway, somewhere around there. So we stop in Brandon. I'm like, "Hey, it's a long drive. We'll stop in Brandon for the night, and we'll do the rest of the drive. So you want to go see the rink?" "Sure." So we, go give Rich a heads up. And so Rick Dillabo, Dilly's been there. He was away from the team for a couple of years, but he's back to the team. And Dilly's just great people, right? So talking to Rich, we're telling stories, and Rich was telling my son, "Yeah, your dad was a little crazy back in the day. He used to fight a lot with my son." I was like, "Yeah, He was like, hadn't hit puberty yet and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, we got in this brawl in Regina one time." And he's talking about the brawl. And then Dilly comes flying out of the office, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what's crazy about that?" He's like, "I've never seen this before." He's like, "Grown men were sprinting up the aisle and come flying back down double-fisted with pop or soda or whatever, depending on what country, just so they could throw them at you." He's like, "I've never seen that before." Number one. Number two, he's like, "Why weren't the concessions closed?" Because this was 30, 40 minutes after the game. So that was that was a scary, your adrenaline's pumping, so you're not really thinking about it. But you think back, you're like, "How the heck did my parents ever let me go play?" But it was just back then. But every time we got a brawl in Moose Jaw, because we scored a goal before the end of the game, and the goal judge waited till the game was over to put the light on. So our coach Bobby Lowe's is sour. He goes over to the timekeeper and, "You whatever." And then I'm holding him. So Lowe's 5'10", I think, somewhere around there. And I'm on skates. He's in shoes. So I got him in a headlock, and his head's down here. And he wiggles his head around and turns to me. He's like, "Dinger, if you don't let go of me, I'm going to sucker you right now." And it was 16. I think it was 16. So I'm like, "Well, okay, see you later." He goes up to the timekeeper. "You're an a-hole." Hits him, knocks his glasses off, and it's literally slap shot. We're like, "Oh, God, here we go." So, and the Moose Shot team, it's literally slap shot. So a bunch of their guys came over, and they're like, "Do we get in this? This isn't even our brawl or our fight or whatever." And the fans were trying to lynch us. And just I don't know which of the two brawls. We were in quite a few of them, but our bus driver, Mogi, was on the ice, our owner, plumber, Kelly McDremin. I just remember after one of the brawls, I think it was the Regina one, because we had a police escort, RCMP escort. Wow. And so I got one game, the coach got one game, and I remember Kermit coming into the locker room. He takes his suit coat off, and he's literally wiping off whatever fluids, beer, pop, and he looks at all of us. He goes, "That's effing hockey." And I was like, "Okay." So, yeah, the Western League was, you got initiated and all that, but I love my time in Brandon. It was a great town, great people. Kremer did an unbelievable job. Palmer's an awesome owner, coach. Losey set the tone, and coaches are hard. I love it. Coaches are hard on my kids, but as long as you're hard on everybody. And so I was a drummer. I still play not as much as I used to, but I was a big fan of Metallica, Motley Crue, those bands back in the day. So I had 3 earrings down here and one up top there. And I show up at camp with my earrings, and Losey's like, "Hey, nice earrings." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, "You don't think you're keeping those things, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." Kind of, he's like, "Not if you're gonna have to play here. Get those freaking things out of your head." And I was like, "Okay, just take my earrings out." But I love the honesty and the I appreciated it that I knew where I stood, so I wanted to play there. So yeah, I literally took the earrings off about 30 seconds later. So stuff like that, riding the bus, doing the West Coast trip, and you know, as you can't, you can probably already tell my answers are pretty long, so you could ask me 2 questions. I could talk for 30 minutes, but we did a bus
Okay,
trip.
well,
So
time's up.
yeah, we did it.
Love
Well, we
it,
did our,
bro.
so we do our West Coast trip. You know, where you go to the West and you play like Seattle and Portland and all those teams. And, you know, so you're on the road for 13 days. And yeah, you play like 7 games in 13 days. If you go 500, it's a good trip. And I don't know if it's my 3rd or 4th year, but it's 27 hours back. And the rule was if you lost, you couldn't watch a movie on the little tiny screen at the front of the bus. And so we had a good trip. We were where were we? 4-2, I think, going into the last game in Portland. So I believe I scored the first goal of the game. I could be wrong. But then they scored 10 straight. So after the 3rd goal, I get in a fight. 5th goal, I get in a fight. And then, you know, 6th, 7th goal, whatever, 8th goal, I'm just trying to get kicked out. And so I grab somebody and slap them around and get kicked out. So we know we're not watching a movie that night. And whatever. But you go to bed and then you wake up, you're still on the bus. Then you still got like, I don't know, 10, 12, whatever, however many hours. And, you know, like we're on this bus, so it's like, you know, I think coach is going to let us watch a movie. Like, I don't know. So we had this, I think it was a rookie, Joel Crankle, and Cranks was a beauty and a little gullible. So we're like, Cranks, can you go ask Lowe's if we can watch a movie? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, just go ask him. You know, no problem. You think he'll be okay? I was like, oh, yeah, next day, no problem. He goes up there, hey, Lowe's, you think we watch the movie? He's like, get that, you know, F up out of here. And so I think we stopped at Medicine Hats. It was about 10 hours from Brandon, maybe 8 or 10. I don't know. It's been a long time, but we literally had like they got us 2 hotel rooms so everybody could like shower because it was like starting to smell bad because there was like, it was our own bus and no one really cleaned it. The guys in the bottom bunk, they had a few wrappers and stuff in there. And then we had like veal cutlets with the gravy and the squiggly fries. It was like one of the best meals ever. And I think we got home in time. However we did it, like I think we had to go to school or something. That's the other thing too. Like people don't understand. It's different now, but we would bus to like PA, you know, Medicine Hat, wherever, and like literally sometimes get back at like 6 in the morning. It's minus 30. You're unpacking your equipment, and your gear's like frozen solid, so you're trying to like hang it up. And it's like literally like a rock, and then literally go home, rattle the shower off, and go to school. And then your first class, you're just like. And I remember my one teacher, he's like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Why are you here? Like, when did you get home?" I was like, "I don't know, like 6." And he's like, why didn't you just stay home and sleep? And I was like, well, because if I don't go to school, I'm not playing. So that was the rules. We had study hall and all that stuff. So, you know, not all of it was fun, but it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed my time. I could go on and on. Like, it's just, but that one in Regina, that brawl, here's another good part of it. So, myself and Colin Cloutier, you know, we're both 6'4", and, you know, it was back in the wooden stick era where you had 2 sticks. You had to break one and bring it to the trainer's spike before you could get a new one. But we were like bigger and we couldn't use like a regular stick. So we had like technically a pattern between the 2 of us, and they were extra stiff. And so the next day of practice, I break like 3 sticks, which in these things back in the day, you guys know, like Sherwoods and stuff and the old Bauer woods, they're like friggin' 2x4s. And so I break like 3 of them. I'm like, what the heck, man? So our assistant coach, Big Johnny, God rest his soul, he was awesome. And I was like, man, he's like, what's going on there? And I'm like, yeah, what's going on with my sticks, man? I broke like 3 of them. He's like, what do you think I was hitting the fans that were trying to get over the glass with? So they were coming over the glass in the bench, and he was like, you know, tomahawking them. So, yeah, there's another part of that story. So, next question, if you want to keep going.
Yeah. So, hey, Chris, so one of the things that has been written about you, so I didn't know, I knew what you'd antagonize on the ice, but there's been some stuff written that you would antagonize your coaches. Maybe, I'm not sure how that came about. Maybe you could tell, did you chirp at them, or like, is this like
coaches?
Yeah, coaches. It was an article that was written in 2019 out of Brandon, actually. So I'm guessing that must have been junior.
Yeah, I'd antagonize my coaches. Not
You didn't even
intentionally.
know that was written. Oh, yeah, okay.
No, I had no idea. I mean, I think Glosy and I were, you know, he played me a lot. So, you know, if you weren't playing good, you know, you'd get an earful, which whatever, I was fine with them. The only one that maybe is that my rookie year in Calgary, Brian Sutter. And Sudsy was an intense guy, and, you know, just like, you know, got to work hard. The boys are right there and whatever. And we were playing at home. I forget who we were playing. And like, he was just like, he'd wind himself up and like, he'd get mad. And I just so happened to be walking by his office, and it's like, you know, I'm about to warm up. I got a coffee. I'm in my, you know, not dry fit. It was back then. It was cotton. I was walking by his office. He's like, "There, get in here." And I was like, "Okay." Like, he's like, "Come in." And then just starts talking, and he's like, yeah, whatever, you want to be here, and blah, blah. He's going on. He's like, I don't know if you're dumb or just stupid. If you want, we can go right now. And I'm like, well, I'm like sweating a little bit. I'm like, what do I do? Do I fight him? Do I not? Like, maybe he wanted me to, like, whatever, grab him or something. But then if that goes bad, like, my career's over. So maybe
like
that
Torts.
was antagonizing. Well, Torts was intense too. And, I didn't agree with everything he did, but we did win with him, and he challenged guys. I appreciated the fact that he was hard on everybody. It didn't matter, first line guy, fourth line guy, if you didn't think you were bringing it. We had some video sessions where, I was like, hey, what are you thinking right there? And Luke, you fall for it. I don't know, whatever. He's like, that's right, you weren't thinking. It's like, buddy, come on, just tell me you're going to get plastered. You're G-man, the guy's bearing down on you. And there was one time in Carolina, not really junior story, but yeah, it's coach. So you do video, and when you do video after a game, like, you can literally, like, if you concentrate on turnovers or missed shots or whatever, like, guys make mistakes all the time. Like, I tell my kids, hockey's a game of mistakes. Like, don't be worried. Just try and limit them or whatever. And but this one, we were in Carolina. We played the night before. We practiced, and we got to do video, and then we're going to get on a flight. I think we're going to Philly, and it was like Super Bowl Sunday. So we just wanted to get to Philly. Someone had a place set up, so we watched the game, whatever, and have a couple pops or whatever you want to call them, adult beverages and some wings. And so we just want to do video and get on the flight. And Torch shows this clip, and it's like after a goal. It's a center ice face-off. And we're like, why is he showing this? And Vinny Cavalier, one of the best guys, players, super nice guy, but sometimes, like, maybe too nice. So Torch was like, challenge him, want him to get mad, so he poke at him. So shows this clip, and so it's after a face-off, and, like, like center ice face-off, and the guys, like, lean in. It's from the side, and guys lean in. And we're like, why is he showing this clip? Like, there's no sound, but literally the camera zooms in, and you can read the lips. And Vinny's like, just always like, how's it going? Stahl's like, what? He's like, how's it going? Stahl's like, what? And we're like, oh God, this is not good. And he's like, you're having a good year. And Stahl's like, what? And so as soon as we see this, we're like, oh God, this is not good. So he paused, Torch paused it. Hey, Vinny, I'm just curious. And Vinny's like, yeah. And he's like, what are you saying on there? And Vinny's like, I don't know. He's like, no, I'm just curious. Like, what are you saying on there? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, no, I'm just curious. Like, what are you saying there? He's like, he stuck it up your ass, and you're blah, blah, blah. And you guys ate him on his ear, blah, 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 F you. And then, like, 30, 40 minutes later, like, they're going back and forth. And we're like, oh, God, we just want to get on the flight. So,
Like, just every in the room had to listen to it?
Oh, yeah, they're the whole team. Yeah, like, Vinny's, like, standing up, and they're F you. That was Torch's thing. He liked to challenge guys. So, didn't agree with everything, but, he was hard on guys, and we won. He was a big part of it. So it was nice to see other guys get the, I don't know, not the heat, but, whatever. Not be the one yelled at. What are you thinking there, Dinger? I don't know. That's right. You're an idiot. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so.
Well, you've interacted with quite a few coaches, GMs, assistant coaches, things like that, trainers. And one individual that stands out is Kelly McCrimmon. And we know what he's been able to do not only in the WHL, with the Wheat Kings, but also, moving on to Vegas and what he's been able to do. Could you maybe just share your experiences and talk about how well McCrimmon has been able to transition from the WHL into the NHL, and just if you've had interactions with him, and do you see him as someone that can continually be successful at almost every level that he attains to?
Yeah, you want me to be honest? Krumer is a brilliant man. Very hard, very intimidating. I got all the respect in the world for him. He built a great team. He's a great franchise, and I think he was up for the job in Toronto, the assistant job that Dubas got. And I remember talking to him. I talk to him once in a while, and I'll text him, congratulations, they won, or once a year. And I was kind of putting a feeler out there. I was like, wow, those are nice gold helmets. We got an extra one. I'd wear one for sure. I love it. If it's free, it's for me, because all my money's got to go to my kids. If you guys have kids that play hockey, it's like very expensive. So
one day, my two boys. One day,
yes,
one is two.
Yeah.
Girls, so I'm good.
Yeah.
There wasn't WHL, so they didn't get interested.
Oh yeah, start saving now if your kids are gonna play. So anyways, so he's up for that. I was like, yeah, how do you? And then he took the Vegas job, and you're like, okay, that's why. Like, just a brilliant man, and just everything. Like, you was talking about the expansion rules, and how they wasn't fair, and how they got an advantage. And I could be wrong, but like he looked at every team, and it was in cap trouble, and it's like they're in cap trouble. So like you have these brilliant businessmen, but they want good teams, and so July 1st they overpay for guys. We had a lockout. It wasn't a strike. We had a lockout. Bob Goodenow was like, you have these people, these guys, these owners, they're brilliant business people that build these companies worth billions of dollars, and every year July 1st their brains turn to mush, and they overpay for guys, and then they have buyer's remorse because it's like, hey, I'm paying this guy $5 million, but he's a good player for $2 million. But anyway, so he went around to looked at every team, and it's like he wanted this player, but he's like, I want this guy, but I'll take him. And then they got all these draft picks. He turned those draft picks into players, and he looked at guys that were maybe third line guys that needed opportunity, and and then assembled obviously great teams. And I remember he fired Gerard Gallant, and I texted him. I was like, man, you guys are first place. Like, what the on the road? Like, that's kind of cold. And he's like, we just didn't feel the team was, playing up to their potential. And it's tough. It's tough business. You maybe have to fire friends or make hard decisions, but they won a cup and they've been a great team for years. And I remember in junior though, and I was talking to Darren Ritchie or one of the guys. So he had this in his office. So he'd have his office. He'd go in, and him or the coach, Rosie, like you had to go check in if you're older and you're done school, you had to go check in at 10 because practice was like at 1:15 or whatever. So you just go in, like show your face and say hi and show you weren't like hungover or whatever, and just get you out of bed basically. But he had this couch. It was this leather couch that but he sawed the legs off or the feet or whatever. So he sawed them off so it'd sit lower. So you'd sit down and like you're like way down here and he's like above you. And so I remember, it's been a few years so you can't find me, but we missed curfew a few times. But we won and whatever. So, but he always say like you go in there and so like. When I wouldn't break curfew, he's like, Darren, what time did you get back last night? Or what time did you get back to your build last night? I'm like, 10, let's say curfew was at 10 on and on game night. After games, it was 11, maybe 12. And if it was a Saturday, we get a 2:30 curfew. We didn't play for a week or whatever. And I'd be like, let me think, like 9:57. He'd always go, is that right, eh? I'm like, yeah. So after I was done, we go back and work the hockey school for a few years and stuff. And, you're not playing for him and you're, I guess we can call ourselves friends, and and so I was like, "Hey, Krim, can I ask you, like, what was up with that? Was that right, Aid?" Like, I'm like, he scared the living crap out of me. Like, literally, I knew I didn't miss curfew, but I would answer, and you go, "Is that right, Aid?" And I'm like, literally, I'd sit there and I go, "I don't know, is it right?" Like, and I was like, "Why would you do that?" He's like, "Well, I just wanted to give you a second and evaluate your answer and see if you wanted to stick with it." And I was like, "Well, it worked, man. You scared the living crap out of me." So I was like. Almost like gonna lie because I was like, I don't know, was I like? Ooh. So, yeah, great guy, great organization, and he's done well and deservedly so. He's a brilliant hockey mind, so he deserves everything he's at.
Before we run out of time, Chris, I want to look behind Pavel, and we see the Colorado jersey, the Colorado Avalanche, and you won the cup with them. That team you played for was an incredible team. I mean, some great players, Hall of Famers, and. Maybe just tell us that experience of that cup run. What was that like for you?
Like unbelievable. Like I could talk a whole hour about it. To be honest with you, the leadership was great. The guys were great. The guy was a fourth line guy, and sometimes I move up to third line, but the Stars treated me like gold. So Ray Bork got traded to us, and he's like, "Hey, let's go for a beer." And I was like, "Who? Like me?" Like, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Wow. Yeah, it was like awesome. But he had this thing. He's like, yeah, in Boston, like what we do is the first guy to go to the bathroom, take a leak, had to pay the tab, and drink a lot of coffee, work out in the morning, and drink water and drink a beer. And I'm like sitting there after like an hour, and I'm dying. I'm like, oh, God, I gotta go to the bathroom, but it's Ray Bork, so I'm like crossing my legs, and I want to win. Finally, he goes, yeah, Dinger, you got me. And we had this bar called the Loon in Minnesota. And you got to go down the stairs, down the hallway, in the bathrooms at the end. So I gave him literally like a 30-second head start, and I go flying down the stairs. And I'm like literally like unzipping, like running down the hallway. Thank God there's no one in the urinal next to him. And I just like literally, probably from across the bathroom, started peeing. He's like, "Oh yeah, you had to go too." And I was like, "Yeah." But anyways, it was like one of the best teams. And what I appreciated about it, and I loved about it, is that I started in Calgary. In Calgary, we were like trying to make the playoffs. Weren't as good. Whether you are or not, in Colorado, is like our goal is to win the cup. Anything less is unacceptable. And we traded for Ray Bork the first year. We lost in 7 games at Dallas. Bubba decides to come back the next year, and That year was we're going to finish first overall, and anything less is unacceptable. So if we have a game 7, it's in our building, and that's what we did. You know, we won game 6 on the road against Jersey, and then came home, won game 7, and it's just awesome. Like we still had fun. We go at the odd time and have some beers and stuff, and as a team, but it was all about winning. Everything was about winning. Our leadership was great. Like, I tried to be the best conditioned guy. I think he had the best wing gate, but Joe Sakic had the best VO2. He was in the gym, and it was awesome. So it just it was an unbelievable city, town. We spent Y2K there. We were up in Aspen, Forsberg, FOPA, they guys call him. So FOPA gets us into this private club, and it was like antlers on the door, and he gave it like the secret knock, and they open up, and I don't know, it was like 15 grand to be a member. I wasn't paying. I think he was a member, but I got in with him. So, and he took care of dinner. Like, I was like, I'll put in my whatever. But it was like awesome because you're up there with friends and you're not sure if the world's going to end. And we had Adam Dedmarson was on our team, and Dedder was like a hunter, and, he's big into hunting, and he's like doomsday prepper. So he had like all the water and the generators and the canned food. So we're like, me and Greg DeVries, who's my roommate, Debo, awesome guy. We're like, oh, yeah, we're good. We'll just go to Detter's house, like, because if the computers flip over and everything shuts down, he's like, yeah, let's go over to Detter's. He's got everything. We're good. He's got a generator. He's got food and water. So, yeah, just a great team, great group of people. And, the best was part of it, too, is they, like, win one for Ray. It was all like, win one for Ray, Boric, win one for Ray. And Ray's like, F that, win it for yourself. Because my name will be right next to yours. And he was all about the team and wanted to win. And he went into the coach's office. Actually, we were in St. Louis. I think we're going to triple or double overtime or something. Our line had scored. We'd only played like 9 minutes. So like Saxon, those guys had played like 40 minutes or something. And Borky at 41. He played like 45 minutes or something. He went to the coach's office, slammed the door, came out a minute later and said, everyone's going to play BF and ready. So he literally went to the coach's office and said, play me less. Like, I can't play this much. He wanted to win that bad. And I don't know a lot of star players that would do that. So he just had that kind of team and leadership that, again, it was all about winning and not about the personal stuff. So it was like, I look back, I'm like, what am I doing on this team? Like, Joe Sakic he got his 1,000th point. I scored the goal. I just happened to be on the ice. I posted the video a couple days ago, and he literally tried to shoot a couple times, bobbled, and he tried to pass it to Sandis Ozolin, I believe, and I come flying in and shoot and score, and I'm all excited. Adam Putt's like, they're not cheering for you, they're cheering for Sax. I'm like, I know, but I'm just so excited. Like, way to go, get a Sax goal. Just lucky to be on that team. Great group, great leadership. Unbelievable.
Well, you've been part of some incredible. Oh, go ahead, Evan.
I was just Val, you can go ahead and ask your question here. Well,
I was just going to say you were part of some incredible teams and some incredible runs, and of course, it is a team sport, as you know, right? It isn't just an individual. Although there are some elite players in the game, but everyone contributes at some level. And being a third liner, fourth liner, defenseman, whatever, goaltender, you got to do your due diligence. It's pretty incredible. But we also know that hockey is short-lived and the time can go by so quickly. And so we know that you did a little bit of sports radioing after your career, but what else are you kind of focused on right now, if you feel comfortable sharing? Is there something that you're involved in with hockey, or is there something that you want to pursue now post your hockey career?
Yeah, I did TV and radio. I had a morning radio show for a couple of years in Tampa, the Kirkendinger morning show. That was great. I get up at 2:30 every morning and go for a run. It was like awesome. There's no one around. Yeah, it was great. But the worst part was doing TV at the same time. And like that's when they started the overtime and the shootout. And like literally every game during the week would go to a shootout. And so like I'm not getting home till like midnight, get 2.5 hours sleep. I go home, take a nap, whatever. I'd go to practice. And so I did that. We moved back to Edmonton 7 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago. I'm working for a company called Environmental 360 Solutions, environmental waste company. So I kind of joke around that I'm in the SHIT business when I used to talk a lot of crap. So, we do everything waste related, hydrovac back trucks. We have dump facilities. And I'm wearing my nice free company sweater there. I told my bosses I was going to do some cross promotion there. So, just doing that. We hired an old teammate of mine, Peter Schaefer, in Saskatchewan there, and so it was good to reconnect with them. And it's awesome. Like, my bosses are great, and as you can tell, I talk a lot because at home, like, everyone's heard my stories, so they don't want to hear them anymore. So anytime someone else wants to hear them, I'm like, woo, here we go, wind me up. And so, it's just been doing that, business development specialist. That's my title. It's basically like sales, but it's awesome. People I work with are great. My bosses are super laid back, and you know, one boss, I'm like, oh, this is my boss. He's like, yeah, off. I'm not your boss. I'm like, well, yeah, you are. He's like, I'm your coworker. I'm like, yeah, but you're my boss or whatever. So, yeah, great group of guys. Yeah, they're fun. So yeah, just doing that and being a dad. I go watch my older boy Hunter's he's in Kenora in the SIJHL and he's playing. So I haven't been able to see because it's quite a ways away. But my younger boy's in Swift Current, so I was kind of laughing when they drafted him. I made a joke. I'm like, finally, Dingman hopefully won't get booed in Swift Current because they hated me in Swift Current back in the day. So I was like, that's awesome. Like Chad Leslie's a GM and it's a great team. And I was like, buddy, you're going to go play in a small town. Like, it's awesome. Like, you're 5 minutes to everywhere. He's actually living, he's living with a family, shoemakers that I coached their daughter for 3 years. And so he's like, they're just outside of town. They got a little bit of property. They have some ATVs because it's like gravel road. And so we went down to visit them a couple times. So we go down when it's built to go watch their daughter. They have 2 daughters, but the one's playing in the U.S. And so he's been shooting the rifles a little bit and riding ATV. I'm like, buddy, you're like a country guy now, man. Came back. He's listening to country music and stuff. And yeah, he's in a good spot and a good town. I just told him, like, it's awesome. You go to those, like I was drafted by Seattle, then I got traded to Brandon before I played a game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like, because I'm a drummer and like I'm into music and grunge and metal. And Seattle was like, back in the 90s.
The grunge days, yeah.
Yeah. So then I get traded to Brandon and I was like, oh God, they didn't want me.
Country.
I wanted to quit. Yeah, I wanted to quit. And my parents, I remember, like, where's Brandon? Brandon Manitoba. I'm like, what's the population? 42,000. I was like,
40,000.
are you kidding me? Yeah, so it was like, go try it, and if you don't like it, just come home, let's talk to your parents, give you. And yeah, I went and I had 4 unbelievable years, and we literally listened to, like, back in the day, it was like Firehouse. Remember that band? Rock on the Radio was like huge. It was that or George Strait. Yeah, Garth Brooks, George Strait, or like Firehouse, or like Motley Crue, or Poison, or Metallica.
So Chris, I was in Brandon in '97. I came in just after you. And so I know what you're talking about, but what I'm laughing is we do have people from Brandon sometimes check in, which will be funny if they catch us later because you said 40 people and it actually would have been 40K, but you said
42,000. 42,000 be there.
So when I moved there, I had been used to the big cities. I was like Metro, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. I was like, I can't stay. I had to leave by 2:02. I was just like, I got to go somewhere. It was the kind of thing where the guy drops off his Lamborghini at the store and just gives the keys and doesn't even leave his name. He says, hey, just, I need you to change my tires, rotate them,
That was you. You just like, see you later. I'm call me a cab. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I loved it.
And did your boys follow in your steps in terms of playing wing, or are they playing defense, or if you feel like sharing, or goalie, or?
Well, yeah, they both tried goalie, but I'm like, you're not doing that. It's even more expensive and yeah, whatever. So I did goalie for a bit. I did 1 year. My dad's like, no, it was like 9 or something. But yeah, they play right wing, left wing, some center. So I think the versatility aspect is great. And yeah, both boys have played both wings. My older Sawyer played center a little bit in preseason. He's just been playing left or right wing. And then Hunter, my older boy, the other team he was on, he was playing center. Now he's been playing some center, but mostly right wing and left wing. It's just I try to teach him like the versatility because I bring back the fact, and they, even they were like, "Oh, I don't want to play right wing. I'm terrible." And I'm like, So I tell him that story, man. I was like, I thought I was awful, and then I got drafted 19th overall in Calgary. He's like, "Yeah, we knew we wanted you. Who cares? You could learn how to play it." So yeah, they play pretty much all 3 forward positions. I tell them be yes men, like. Coach asks you, you play left wing? Yeah. You play center? Yeah. You play right wing? Yeah. You play defense? Yeah. You play goalie? If you really need. So, yeah, they do. They're good kids. They both skipped a grade, so they took after their mom. I did look at my report cards. My mother kept them up until grade 9. What are you laughing for? I never got an A in phys ed.
It's because I looked at my report cards recently when I was digging through some of my stuff, and my 2-year-old was asking what it was, and I was like, "Don't worry about it. You're not going to see this."
Cool. But like some of the comments were awesome because I was literally the kid that, as you can probably tell, would have to sit next to the teacher, but I was facing the class, and then they turned my desk around, and it was like Chris could be an honor student if he just applied himself a little bit more. Chris is a little disruptive at times in class and talks too much and whatever. But like the phys ed one, that pissed me off because, I was a good athlete. I still, I'm not as good as I was, but I still feel, I can still play, play hockey, not to the level. But anyway, so, I got one athlete of the year the one year. I never got an A. And it was like, Chris is really good at the kids that aren't as good at sports, B+. And the other one year was like, Chris is super competitive and hates losing. I'm like, look, man, couldn't give me an A. Like, never got an A. So that kind of pissed me off, if we're being honest. But whatever, you got to let stuff go, right? So
you do. I mean, my quick story is that I think it was grade 7 or 8 phys ed, physical education class. I got a 75 or 74, something around that line, and I showed my parents my report card, and the marks were pretty standard. And my dad looks at this report card of 74, 75, and says, "What, you can't freaking," I'm paraphrasing, run?
yeah.
But there was more to it because we were learning the rules of different games, and we would do tests. So it was more than just, physical activity being engaged. But yeah, I too did not do well in phys ed and having a good mark. So, but go ahead, Evan.
No, I was just gonna say we should call it a wrap. Otherwise, I mean, we got a whole bunch of stuff we got to cover yet, Chris. It's been crazy. One last thing I was thinking is, I think what I should do is reach out to Flow Hockey, because you need to get the sports channel so you can watch your kid on Flow over in the SIJHL, because I believe they cover some games out there. Do they not?
Yeah, I don't think so. We have a subscription because he was in the Orange before, but watch SIJHL TV, so we have a subscription to that, and WHL Live. So literally my week. Well, when they played at the same time, so WHL Live we watch live, and then we pause my older Hunters games, and then it's intermission, then we watch his, and we're like, so literally our weekends are like, okay, who's playing? And I take my daughter and I teach the backward skating station. I can barely walk. I don't know why I'm doing the backward skating station because I'm terrible at it. But I guess I'm the best of the coaches. So it's like, they're on the coaches chat. So it's like the stations, because it's like my daughter's 5. So like, who's going to do the skating station? I'm like, I'll do whatever. It's fine. And so, I'm at the skating station. So that's a compliment. But I wasn't the best skater known for it. So this weekend, the skating station is like knee bend stuff and like one leg, and I'm like, I don't know if you watch me skate. I didn't really bend my knees very much. Jason Strudwick used to give me a hard time about the one-legged push and whatever. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how I'm gonna like be on one leg and hopefully my knee doesn't buckle and like try and bend my knee and not fall over. So I'll maybe take some video and send it to you guys. You might have a good laugh. But I try not to fall down because I'm like Humpty Dumpty. When I fall down, it takes half an hour to get back up. So.
But hey, I will say this. I worked out at the same gym with Struds there over in by Westmount Mall years ago. This is back early now. I mean, but we're talking skinny legs. That guy. I love Struds, but I'm surprised. I told him, he said, "You must have a strong core because you don't got tree trunk legs at all, buddy."
Yeah, he skipped cap day for sure. Yeah, he's got a couple strings hanging from his quads. But I will. I like
the wall.
you know what? We chirp each other, and it's funny because we used to fight all the time. But I do have all the respect in the world for him because he just got tougher and tougher, and he did extra, and he played a long time. He jokes about it, all kind of self-deprecating, but he played for a long time because he was a good team guy and a good leader and fought. But yeah, it's funny. He was on the radio or a podcast. He was talking about when he was in Vancouver, and myself and Scott Parker were in Colorado, and him and Brashear were the two guys. So he's like, yeah, we're playing Colorado, and he's like, okay, who am I fighting, Parker or Dingman? Because I know I'm fighting one of the two of them. So literally, he was like, okay, who am I fighting this game? He just knew it was going to happen, and that's the thing people maybe don't realize, understand about hockey, is that 95% of guys are unbelievable guys, and you go for beer after, it's a job, whatever, and sometimes you get mad, and there's the 5% that they're just a-holes or whatever. But Stry's one of the good guys, but we love chirping each other. So, about the knee bend for sure. Yeah, the lack of cap development. But it's all good.
Well, thanks so much, Chris. We better get running here. I'd love to be able to connect up with you again sometime down the road here. To share more stories. I think you got to get a book. I mean, you remind me of Jed Roberts, local Eskimo guy. He's got like so many stories. You could just kind of put that book together and people would buy it. I mean, you see books people buy?
I told Noodles. Jamie McClellan wrote a book. I'm like, if Noodles can write a book, I can write a book. I told my wife I should write a book, and she's like, I'm not gonna make any money off that. Who's gonna buy your book? I'm like, I don't know. And she's a writer. She's a published poet. So I was like, you could ghostwrite it. She's like, I'm not ghostwriting for you. That probably wouldn't go over too well. She's too above my level. She's getting her PhD actually right now at the University of Alberta. So
You never listened to
that one. Oh yeah. So I write emails, important business ones. I'm like, hey, can you check this? See my grammar and punctuation. Like, I'm a big fan of commas. So what do you call them? Run-on sentences. Kind of like my answers. They're run-on. So I know we got to get going. So apologize for running over, guys. But I've been on the other end of that where literally when I started doing TV and you're nervous and you're like asking. So I remember I was interviewing Alex Tanguay and Tangs. I played with Tangs. He was in Tampa. And I was so nervous. I had my 3 questions, and I wasn't even really listening to what he was saying. His first answer was like 5 words. I was like, anyway, so what about the secretary? Okay, well, coming back, Lightning Live, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go around the league and whatever.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show and answering the questions and sharing, and we've really indulged in having you share some really cool stories because honestly, like, we have questions ready to go. But sometimes our guests like yourself kind of really share something completely different, and we want to know more about it. So that was great. We really appreciate it. Go ahead, Evan.
No problem.
Yeah. I was going to say, thanks for bringing it to us WWE style. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Send me an email of how many questions that you didn't ask because I rambled on so long. I'm curious. 10? You can send me an email.
We got one.
I'll let my colleague, we don't need that. You can send it to him later.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, Chris, man, it's been a blast. In the famous words of the famous Red Green, kind of like Colorado with the Elkhorns and the Special Lodge, we'd like to say, keep your stick on the ice, buddy.
Yeah, I do. I try. I'm too old. I got to lean on it.
All right. Night. Thanks again.
Have a great night. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show.
Well, our show is pretty awesome tonight, man. It's been a long time since we get guys come in and sharing stories. Not a lot have stories, which is kind of nice. So maybe
Chris can write a book. I agree. I would 100% read that book in a heartbeat.
I would too.
Audio book, whatever it may be. It's he would definitely benefit from sharing some of those stories.
So Dinger is going to have a story about all of his kids' games. He's going to have a story what happened leaving the house. He's going to have a story. His wife probably takes it, puts the desk in the chair, and puts him up against the wall at dinner time. So no, but Chris, thanks so much, man. It was an incredible pleasure to have you on. We may be running late, and there's stuff we're going to kind of navigate around, but that's perfectly fine. We don't get opportunities often to hear those kinds of stories. So thanks so much, guys. That was Chris Dingman. If you're following this later and you just caught this, didn't see the whole episode, definitely catch right from about 7:03 mark. So why don't we do this tonight? I'm just looking at some of our stuff. We're going to pass on the Revs tonight and the Around the Rink. Let's cover some of the NHL news and then finish off with some hockey history. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So why don't I move over? Let's talk about, because we've taken up quite a bit of time, we're not getting a lot of our segments on, guys. We want to throw a shout out there. First of all, the Kalkaska Battlers, our partnership, they are in the APHL, the American Premier Hockey League. It is a semi-pro league. They are having an incredible season. Catch them on YouTube. Follow them through their channel down there. They are incredible folks. We're going to have some of their guys, coach, and also some of their players on in the new year. And Puckpedia last week, Hart Levine, go back last week. And by the way, I need to apologize. I called him Hart Levine. So Hart, if you're catching this piece, I sent an apology, but it's not Levine. I know it's not Levine. I never call you Levine, but I called you Levine when I brought you on to talk to you one-on-one. So my apology. Hart Levine, guys, Puckpedia. We're going to actually go to some Puckpedia in a little bit. We also mentioned about JR Web Designs, who designs our website. They'll give you an incredible price. You're not going to beat that price for an awesome website. And also the music you hear in our intro and our at the end is through Penny Billionaires, electronic hard rock band out of
Great
Arizona.
workout album. Great workout album.
Oh yeah, I know. I get that on. I'm not a guy with a few of the words, and once in a while I'm like, oh, I didn't know that bad word was in there. But anyway, my wife's like, what? While we're working out. So why don't we go ahead and we're gonna play up to you something here. I found this interesting. Now I'm getting older, Pavel. So as we pull this up, Sidney Crosby, he hits the 600 goal mark. And I was able to find a stat line that I threw up here to make it a little easier. So if you guys need to, you can kind of clue in a little bit closer, and you will see the most goals scored. So what I found interesting on this line is his career goals versus other NHL franchises. He feasted on the Flyers. I am sorry, Jamie Baskow, one of our former guests that has been on a few different years, but they struggled against Sydney. Sydney lights up the. But in the same division, the Capitals, very defensive. And then the other part I found interesting on the low end in the Western Conference, he has feasted on the Jets, and the Sharks and the Oilers he's barely had anything for goals, which surprised me, even in the head-to-heads against McDavid. And he's been around for 20 years with the Oilers, and so he's got at least like about 20 games that you're looking at, and 5 goals. Actually 5 goals. Doesn't mean points, but so I don't know. What did anything stand out in those stat lines to you that you found interesting?
I mean, if you're looking at it, he definitely enjoyed teams in the Metro, or currently that are in the Metro. I know the divisions have changed up a little bit in his career. I was very surprised at how well he did against the Panthers. It's quite interesting that a team like the Panthers, that he's been able to put up quite a few points, right? So you think like, oh, the Panthers, Atlantic team, but how often do you see them, right? And they've gone through ebbs and flows of goaltenders there, some greats, Bobrovsky and Roberto Luongo. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, that Battle of Pennsylvania, one of the great rivalries in the NHL. So very impressive. Good that he got Utah, the new franchise this year, and the fact that Utah is his 600th goal. So that's pretty impressive that at the bottom of the list, the one goal from Utah reach 600 goals, which puts him in some pretty elite company, Evan. It's very impressive, and he's continuing to produce, and he could potentially tie or reach up to where Joe Sakic is in the 620s, 630s. So good for Crosby. Probably going to go on Mount Rushmore as one of the greatest players, probably top 5, but yeah.
Okay, Jordan has a question for me. He says, I have 2 questions for Evan. Now, we're not talking juniors, but I am going to answer the question because Jordan took the time to write it. So, buddy, I know what you're getting at here. You're like, this is the CHL, Evan. This is the WHL versus the United States Development Program. So this is what I'm going to say. This is actually a much larger argument. There's the fun part of this argument that I have, you and I, Jordan, but then there's the serious and the logistics. The CHL, and it's a money grab. It's all about major junior. It was once a rogue league. I'm going to be writing a large article up about how it began with Bill Hunter, how he actually made it go rogue, and they finally brought it under one to make it the full major junior. Now here's the problem. The U.S. is the U17 team, and then the other part of it is it's actually Junior A. They're really playing Junior A. You have major juniors versus Junior A's, and you only have some. So most don't go to the development program unless they want to go to NCAA. So they will go through take their chances and come into to Canada. So that's why that you're dealing with it. But I said the same thing, Jordan. So Michael Devellano and I on Twitter, so you can follow at Rev and Ev there, and you'll notice Michael Devellano because he's very big, and we were talking about around the CHL, and he's very big on U.S. prospects, of course, and being the head scout for the Everett Silvertips, and he was pretty positive in the CHL. Me too. I thought it would be a dominant show, but I don't know the score tonight. I have not actually followed because I was busy getting ready. So, Jordan, if you feel like you want to slap it in there, you can let us know what the actual score is tonight. But if you do, let us know who they are. And I will say next week, guys, when I come in with my Revs Top 15, buddy, I am moving, Pavel. Matthew Schaefer up. I'm not going to talk much more about it, but I'm moving him up past Roger McQueen, who's been out, because Matthew as a defenseman is like coming on. All right, so what else we got NHL to talk about?
So let's talk a little bit. So did you want to touch on the fact that Crosby, there's been the rumors? I know we talked about it last week.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes, I do. I like it's all throughout I'm all throughout X, all throughout Facebook. There's false rumors. Everybody's like, take a it is obscene. Like everybody's obsessed in a fantasy world that Sidney Crosby's getting traded, or he wants to get traded, or woo, he's not going anywhere. He is only going to the same place that he signed, Pittsburgh. He's retiring in Pittsburgh. Stop it. Quit making up false stories that are not there. Anyway, that could have been my rant of the night if I actually had decided to actually put that up. In fact, you know what? That was brought to you for my rant of the night.
Puckpedia brings you
Rant of the Night.
calling all hockey fans, stay on top of your game with Puckpedia. It's the ultimate source for NHL salary cap information.
Well, Jordan's asking if my two future kids are going to play in the WHL and how Evan feels about that, because according to Uncle Jordan, they are playing in the WHL. I mean, they could go to the OHL. They could go to the BCHL. Like, who knows where they'll go?
Well, they can't go to the OHL because of their signing in here. So,
But I think they will. I think they will. Go ahead.
Well, sorry, Jordan. They probably aren't going there, and I'll tell you why. Because Oz does not have the money, just as Chris Dingman just said, as Dinger just said. He goes, it takes a lot of money, it's costly. I know he's got to get himself through school. And then once he gets through, his money is going to go in raising teenagers. And then what we have is connections to the BCHL. So he's going to go non-sanctioned because he believes in getting out from under Hockey Canada. And he's going to send his boys to the NCAA, to the BCHL, which will still be going strong.
I'm going to send them to Poland, back home, where I'm from. So if people know, so then they're going to secretly go through the ranks of the Polish Hockey League, only to end up in the KHL. So
they'll be like Draisaitl in Germany, right? They'll get 200 squad points in 40 games.
That's where they're going to end up. Speaking of Russians and the KHL, so Michkov, at 20 years of age, 17 points. Versus 19-year-old Bedard, and Bedard's struggling a little bit in the last few games.
That was some of my mind. 20 games, he's got 17 as a 19-year-old.
Yes, okay. So, but we just wanted to talk about first-round picks and even Macklin Celebrini. And I've even seen some rumblings online of saying Celebrini is better than Evan than Bedard. Your thoughts on just the first-round picks and what they've been presenting? I mean, I know Michkov was a first-round pick, but he wasn't the first overall pick. Your thoughts on some of these young kids and the pressure put onto them, and of course, Michkov being a potential Calder nominee.
Well, interesting hearing Chris Dingman earlier as a former NHLer, played with Vinny Cavalier and some of the other folks over there, right, in Tampa, and he played with Torts, and Torts is tough. So being that Torts is tough on players, but you know what? He doesn't give favor. Michkov just keeps, like Jamie Baskal just says, this guy is amazing. But people are trying to say, he's better than Bedard. And they're trying to compare and they're trying to tear down Bedard's year. And what they forget is he's getting his results as a 19-year-old, which is essentially the exact same pace that Bedard had last year as an 18-year-old. And he had an extra year playing in the KHL with men on the actual main team, getting around 0.8 points in the KHL. Now, great. It was not, I believe if it wasn't for Russia, he would have went 1B. Connor Bedard still would have went. Connor Bedard also doesn't play with as much good supporting cast up front, and Connor Bedard does not have the speed, and the size of his body is not as big and strong as Michkov, and that makes a difference in your game. When he got injured, I feel like that did throw him back a bit, and he's a lot more cautious in those tight corners than he was before. But essentially, Bedard, they say, is struggling. But the truth is looking at Celebrini, like Bedard's struggling, he'll be fine. I'm not worried. He might be an extra year to really take off. But Celebrini is essentially right where Bedard was, if not just a tad bit even ahead of him overall in his game, because he plays a great 200-foot game. But I'm looking at all three of these players, give them 4 years down the road. They could be neck and neck when these play. Bedard, I think, has the most potential, though, to be a even higher, like a 50, 60 goal scorer, whereas I don't think the other guys do. But again, who knows? I think it's exciting that you have like an Ovi versus Crosby in a Bedard versus Mishkov. And now Macklin comes right along. It's like he's the guy that says, you have what, Gretzky and Lemieux, and Joe Sakic's like, hello, I'm right over here, right?
Well, and Graham is saying move the draft to 19, and I believe she's implying to the year 19 years of age for Calabrini. That would be interesting to see if they would do that. That extra year of development would help. Oftentimes players will go down for a bit, or they'll play their first 9 games or first few games just to get a feel for the NHL and then go back down. But I wanted your thoughts, Evan, on Juraj Slafkovsky. In 18 games, he's got 11 points and nothing in the last 5 games. Montreal's really struggling this year. It's been interesting. Your thoughts on it? And yes, you clarified draft to 19. Celebrini is better. So there you go. I'm wondering, Graham, are you a San Jose fan, or are you just a Calabrini fan, as they say?
Yeah, no, true. So Slafkovsky, guys, the reason that we're talking about this is because I was harsh on him going in after his first year, and then the season started weak, and he ended strong. Then he came into this year, started decent, and I came on here and I said, you know what, I'm eating my words. And now he's falling again, and he's playing on a 4th line, and and then no points for 5 games. That's important for a first overall. You can't say, oh, no, because you've got to always compare where they were drafted. That was a weak draft. I get it. But the point being is Slafkovsky, you guys in Montreal, I know you fans are desperately wanting something to be more. It's a tough goal. I think he's going to be a great player. He's not going to be the player everyone thought he would be at number 1. But let's be honest, if we're going to say how great he was doing and where he was tracking, he's now tracking the other way, which is showing me a consistency issue. And I always worry, this is interesting, a lot of times European players, especially Finnish, they struggle on consistency for their first 3-4 years. And then they seem to find it. Not many guys are like Rantanen. That's not a common thing. So anyway, it's quite interesting.
Okay, it looks like Graham is a lifelong hockey player fan, college coach, minor pro, hockey player, fan of the game, and junior coach as well. That's great. Maybe you can let us know what team you're junior coaching if you feel comfortable sharing.
Hey, Graham, send us an email if you get a chance. We love to chat a little bit more. We're always trying to connect with people from all over the place, and maybe let us know where you're from. Different parts. I saw Lost Trucker is down in Mexico tonight. I think that's where it was, or New Mexico, or somewhere.
Now there's quite a bit of news left. So if you go to our website, 2 Guys in Hockey Tech, I kind of break down the news of the week. You can get into it. I don't know, Evan. We did promise people that we're going to go through our 4 Nations draft. So why don't we finish off the show with that?
Okay. Yeah, we'll leave hockey history tonight too. So let's go ahead and now let me explain this before we get on to here. Deal, would you say deal or no deal on David?
Allegedly, he was supposed to be dealt, but I think the deal that was in place fell through, and I think they're still going to deal him. I just don't know by when.
For any team, I say no deal unless you don't pay much. So I put a win on X and I called it out.
Nanaimo Clippers, Alberni Valley Bulldogs.
Oh, Graham, yeah. So are you familiar? Did you connect with us with Luke Gravel? He's the GM right now of in the VIPHL and also director of scouting for over 20 years. So you might know who he is. So hey, that's great, man. We'd be interested in connecting up with you for a show. Get some info from you.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So before we go into this, just know we're going to go through this. We didn't get our rules exactly the same, so it's a little off. We had fun with this, guys. One of our sponsors is Puck Media, and they have what's called GM Puck. So you can go into a season that's with a cap or without a cap. I did it without a cap. I guess Pavel did it with a cap.
No, without a cap. I did it without a cap. And it was for the 4 Nations.
He's crazy. So he didn't even fill a full roster, and I cheated. So we're going to show you what we got working through this. So I'm just going to take us off the screen and make it a little bit bigger for you here. So why don't you start with Sweden? Tell me that compare our 2 lines here. Are you able to see your screen?
I am. So I'm looking at it. So I'll quickly go through it. And of course, line combinations change, injuries happen. But what Evan had is Elias Pettersson at center with Jesper Pratt and William Nylander. We agreed there ourselves.
Whoa.
So that was our line.
That's amazing.
Our second line, I had Burakovsky, Zibanejad, and Lucas Raymond, but you had Lucas Raymond and Philip Forsberg, who normally can play wing or center, and you had Noel Nort. I'm not familiar with that player, but he seems to be a newer guy. You had Zibanejad on your third line. I don't
have time to talk about it. I'll talk about some of them next week a little bit. Right. Why?
And in our defense, we had Rasmus Dahlin and Erik Karlsson. Same here. And Hedman and I had Matthias Ekholm in the bottom pairing.
Wow.
You had top four. That's great. And you had Rasmus Andersson and Ekman Larsson. I had Rasmus Sandin and Adam Larsson. So something interesting. And then, of course, you had Philip Gustafsson and Samuel Ersson, which is interesting because I went with Ullmark and Markstrom as goalies. More veteran presence, but that's just my
I tried
thing.
to save money, but you'll see your cap came in $32 million above mine. So
and I'm still missing 2 players.
Yeah, it's just because of our understanding of our cap. But I actually would still not have picked Markstrom to save some money. And Ullmark, I did not want with the way his save percentage is in a short tournament. I figured
when you get a defense like you do here, I think that can improve. Like Ullmark had last year, better defense in Boston, so that's just something. But that's you guys can let us know if you like this, don't like this. Who would you change, not add? We should go to the next pick. Team USA.
Let me hit on this one. Team USA.
Yeah.
So I have 159 cap. You got 175. So again, you only got 16 million more, but you have 3 less players. So you have Raquel and Nord over
Wenberg in Seattle, yeah.
And I don't feel like Wenberg, I would keep him in that place. I'm going to cover it more next week if we had more time. So here I got Matthews with Brady Tkachuk, and I threw Matthew because Matthew's been playing right side. He did a lot in Calgary. So I put him up there, whereas you, the Cat, gave you Matthews with Matthew Tkachuk and Clayton Keller up on the top right. Interesting enough. But he's 7.1, so, maybe you're trying to save some money there. And then I put Eichel with Kyle Connor on the left and Jack Hughes I threw on the right. You went with Eichel with Brady Tkachuk. You added him in now with Patrick Kane. And interesting. I'm looking already. You got Hughes as a 4th liner. Oh, my gosh. Okay. And then I have DeBrincat on left with Dylan Larkin and Tage Thompson, and you went with Getzel because you spent the money, and to put him with Larkin and Terry. Now I put DeBrincat with Larkin because they play together already.
Right.
And Troy Terry, though, I just kind of felt maybe getting out of Anaheim will help him actually on the team. So I get it. And
he's having a good season for a team that's kind of just at the bottom, so that's why I picked him.
And I have Getzel at the bottom only because DeBrincat, Connor, and Tkachuk. And I would have put him with Larkin, but I felt the chemistry. So that's why I put him on the 4th here with Alex Tuck and Matt Boldy. Whereas you got Matt Boldy there too, but you have Hughes down low. And Kyle Connor, man, this year the guy's going crazy, and you got him down there. I noticed, so for goalies, I put Hellebuck and Ottinger, but you put Swayman. Swayman is way below the 900 for
doesn't matter. He's still an $8.25 million goalie, and he can play like it. And I think he can really bring it. Goaltending was the thing. Now, JT Miller was going to be in my play, but I know right now he's out, and that's why it's a little hard to pick someone, especially now that we know it. Like at the beginning of the season, you could say he would play, but because of the thing he's dealing with, it's a little tough.
You never know. He may be back in time, too.
Right? He may be back. So, now, but I think when you have all 4 guys centers, Matthews, even though Matthews is a scorer, Eichel, Larkin, and Hughes are all playmakers, and you got guys like Kane, Terry, Boldy, Connor Getzel, and Tkachuk. You can put the puck in the net, a little bit of size and grit, and Team USA is the team to beat.
Okay. Well, now Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox I have up there. Now you put McAvoy up there with Quinn Hughes, and then you put
the battle of Vancouver and Boston.
And now I actually didn't go with McAvoy because I was trying to save money. That was my reason why, and I went with Pionk instead. Now I noticed that you took Trouba. I like your lineup. I might change out Trouba for Pionk on a little better pricing there. Save yourself $3 million. But again, we didn't really end up working well in our rosters here. So, and then
all out. I went. What's his name? Kelly McCrimmon, and spent all the money.
Screw it. Let's get over. Let's get over to Team Canada. Run Team Canada by us. Jordan's going to rip you for this.
You've got Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and Sam Reinhart are your top line. Then you've got Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby, and Mitchell Marner. So 2/3 of that line that is reignited from 2010 Olympics. You got third line Braden Point, Connor Bedard, interestingly, and Travis Konechny on your third, and Mason Marchment, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, oh surprise, and Dylan Guenther on your fourth line. On your defense,
let's look.
Okay, so I loaded up my top line: McKinnon, McDavid,
dude, 25 million difference though. Let's just mention that.
Listen. We both are, what's it called? Quite over the cap. So McDavid, McKinnon, and Marner, I'm going wild. This is going to be a strong line. How do you stop this line? How do you like?
Okay.
So then you got Brad Marchand and Sidney Crosby and Mark Stone. Go ahead.
No, okay. So you got McDavid. Everyone's got Marner up there because of his season, but he's not a finisher. Think of Reinhart finishing, man.
Yeah, Reinhart, but he's a playmaker. But McDavid and McKinnon can finish.
No, they can, but that's not naturally what they do. That's not their game. Otherwise, they'd be Rocket Richards every year. I'm just saying. I mean, I think there's going to be too much passing on your line.
I disagree. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring.
Okay.
McDavid knows how to score. Marner knows how to pass the puck, and McKinnon knows how to get the puck in and really battle off anybody. So that's a deadly line. You can't tell me it's not.
Okay.
The second line, Marchand, Crosby, and Stone. So that veteran leadership line that you bring in, that can really make it hard for the opposition. But then the third line, I've got Hagel and Point, who do play together sometimes, and Sam Reinhart, who, again, physical presence can finish. And my fourth line, I went with Giroux, Barzal, and Scheifele. So a little bit of vet, a little bit of speed with Barzal, and Scheifele is kind of a Swiss Army knife. You can do a little bit of everything. So I like what I brought there. Now, in terms of defense, you have Josh Morrissey and Cale Makar. Makes sense. Shea Theodore and Evan Bouchard. Interesting, because with Cale Makar, I thought you would want Devon Toews, but I can understand why. And Evan Bouchard, he's a high-risk, high-reward kind of player. And then Owen Powers and Brandon Montour on your bottom pairing with Brant Clark of LA and Dougie Hamilton. Whereas I went with Devon Toews and Makar, Mackenzie Weegar of Calgary and Josh Morrissey, Shea Theodore and Pietrangelo, who are familiar with each other's game. And the interesting one here is you went with Cam Talbot, Logan Thompson, and Aiden Hill. I had Aiden Hill as the top goalie, and Jake Allen, who's having a really good season for the New Jersey Devils. But your thoughts on goaltending in Canada?
Yeah, so I didn't go with Aiden Hill because his save percentage is horrendous. It's only been because the team is keeping them from a lot more of the outside shots, but it's not like it's because of a lot of high quality shots. So he's got a good support run, but I'm worried about the goaltending of Aiden Hill actually going in net and Binnington. So that's why I stayed away from them. I kept Hill just because of his experience as a third. Cam Talbot's playing amazing. Check his save percentage. Check how well his goals against.
Same with Jake Allen.
Yeah, Jake Allen has less games. That's one of the reasons that I held back, because of the less games played. So I kind of felt I thought about Sam, but again, I was looking at the cap too. So I was trying to save money on some of the cap. I'm going against what I tell everybody with cap. I say keep so much money for the goalies, and I didn't do that. I cheaped out on my back end because I don't feel Canada's goalies are going to make a big difference between them this year. So having said that, that was also the reason I went a little more defensive in my group too.
That's fair. And I had Brandon Montour as a backup as a 70, which is still pretty deep. So either in Canada, really deep overall. Go ahead.
I was going to say Theodore or Montour are kind of interchangeable there, or even Pietrangelo between those three.
Yeah. Good
stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's move to the last one. We'll give our wrap here to you guys. Team Finland, I found this different. So interesting. You only went $8 million more than me with 3 less players. So you were quite close on the cap on this one. So, and by the way, if you're following, you're listening, go to GM Puck through on the top right corner. If you go to puckpedia.com, have fun. You can kind of put your stuff together. Send them to us. If you send us your list, we will put them on our show. Right now, between now and the actual Four Nations Cup, if you guys have saw this, you're like, hey, I like to do this. Take your screenshots. Make sure we can see what your cap hit is. We're asking not for the richest team, but for the team that you try to keep the lowest with the best team possible. So I'll cover the forwards, and then you cover the defense, okay?
Right.
So I put Barkov. Now, I'm not big on Kapokako, but I needed someone in there for the price. And then Mikko Rantanen. Like Barkov and Rantanen together, man. And then you have Rantanen with Barkov and Kakko. So we lined up identical again with Finland. So Sweden's over in Europe, we're doing it good. We got it. Then I have Kotkaniemi and Aho and Sebastian Aho with Eric Halla. And you put Kapanen in there. So that was interesting. That saved you some money. And
it did. And he's been playing well so far, so it's been interesting.
So instead of and that, you know, that would, I tried not to put Hintz in there originally, was only because I was trying to save some cap money, but definitely.
I think Rube Hintz is just one of those, I don't want to say completely underrated, but underrated centers in the game that people don't really talk about enough. And the success that Dallas had. So
yeah, especially in this tournament, right? You know, with it. So and then I did put Hintz, but I threw him on the wing so I could put Michael Granlund's having an incredible year in San Jose. And I didn't want Joel Armia, but I was struggling to find someone. I didn't want to put Puljujarvi up there, but I put Armia, even if there's bad goals against. But you got Tervainen with Sullivan and Lehkonen, which
Eli Tolberland, who went over to Seattle in that what's it called, waiver wire pickup from Nashville.
$12 million. That's close to NHL teams, man. Some teams are spending like $10 million on their third line, so that's a good call. And then
I would say, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish.
I was just gonna say, I would say that if Patrick Laine was in this cap would go up a little bit, but I know he's skating right now in a non-contact jersey, so it's possible he may still make the tournament, and that can have a big impact in their top six.
We both have Lundell in the center. I have Lehkonen on the left, but you had him earlier, and then you have Kotkaniemi. And then you have Michael Granlund on the bottom. I put Jesse Puljujarvi. That guy was big in the juniors. I'm going to trust him in the championships. So that's why I put him up. So go ahead, tell us our D and our.
So we get into defense, where of course Maro Heiskanen is of course going to be on the top left side, and I've got Rasmus Ristolainen of Philadelphia, while you got Esa Lindell, so a partner of Heiskanen. You've got the Toronto's Yanni Hakanpää, who has just come off that serious knee injury, who we didn't know if he was going to play, but he's been playing. He's like 6'6", 6'7" foot guy. You got Henry Yorki-Hayu, which I got him as well from Buffalo. You know, a good stay-at-home, steady defenseman. You've got Oli Mata here as an extra, but I've got him in my bottom pairing. And I've got Nico Mikkola, and you've got him as well. But you also got Ville Heinola, who I think was injured recently, or maybe he came up. He's been up and down for Winnipeg. So that was one of the things that
I wasn't sure if he was or not.
And you've got Teravainen as an extra in the press box. So, again, a little bit of depth there.
By the way, press box doesn't cost me cap hit.
Yes, no, I know. I'm just saying that it's just something there. And then, of course, we get into the goaltending where I went with, of course, obvious, the UC Saros and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, one of my favorite hockey names. You've got the same, and you've got Kevin Lankinen, who's played pretty well for Vancouver, and I could see him being my third as well. Finland, you know, they've got some bodies. They could be a possible upset. You got to really be careful and not underestimate the Finns, because they can finish.
That was fun, but try to get it into a cap. So I think so. The challenge is out for you guys. We're gonna have to call this a wrap because we've gone our extra time. I'd like to thank Chris Dingman for coming on. Dinger, he is a former two-time Stanley Cup champion with Colorado and Tampa Bay, has played with some of the greats of all time, some massive hockey Hall of Famers, big power forward, has worked his way up, played with Brandon, been to 2 Memorial Cups, by the way, WHL champion with the Brandon Wheat Kings. Thanks so much, Chris, for coming on. It was a blast. You guys got to watch. We will keep you updated on some of the work with his son. And I can't remember the company he was with, but he said he'd throw a shout out. So I'll come up with it next week. I'll throw a shout out for them one more time for next week. Thank them for
waste that or waste something.
Okay, don't be saying something that's not true now. Come on. Anyway, hey bud, it's been a ring-a-ding-dong dandy. Great to have you guys with us. We're looking forward to next week. I have it confirmed. Next week we have the director of scouting for the Saskatoon Blades of the WHL, the former Oilers media guy on 630 Ched. For all the Oilers fans, some of you liked him, some of you didn't, but man, he got your goat one way or the other. Dan Tenser, who is now the director of scouting for the Blades, will be with us next week. So looking forward to that. Guys, it's been a great one, but as we say every week, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good night, guys. Appreciate it.